Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam, or KYG as we all know it. The holy period of Navrathri continues, and we are in the last 3 days of this divine period. Now, in the US, I follow the Hindu calendar, and there is a kind of overlap between the 7th and the 8th day. For example, today the 7th day begins and it kind of ends in the morning, and the 8th day, so we will be on Ashtami, or the 8th night technically, but it's not the 8th night. We will have the 7th night, so we still have 3 nights to do. So finally, it's just a technical thing. What happens is in the 9th day we will be actually celebrating 9th and the 10th day, because the calendar would have already begun the Dashara or the Vijaya Dashami, the 10th day. So in the US, for some of you are wondering, we will have only 9 nights of celebration, at least at KYG. This is how I follow it, because I base it on the calendar. All of these festivals are based on the lunar cycles, and there is a deep connection between our psyche, our chitta, the deep memories that we have, the instincts and the impulses that govern our lives. We call it subconscious, unconscious mind, and the cycles, the phases of the moon, and the periods of the moon, in which zodiac sign the moon is, what star constellation the moon is, and so on. Someday we will study all of that in detail. But based on all of that, those cycles, the ancient rishis, the sages, gave us these times for deep contemplation, meditation, because these are most suitable rather, for progress in our own inner journey. So having said that, we have 3 days, and the last 3 nights of days or nights, the last 3 nights in Navratri is dedicated to Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom. The mythical story says that finally there were these 2 demons. Each night there's a fight with these demons, right? And so finally there are these 2 demons, Shumba and Nishumba, which represents the I and the mind principle, which only Saraswati puts an end to. Saraswati is a goddess of wisdom. So what is the lesson we take home from that? It is that the goddess of wisdom, that wisdom alone brings down and cures these, we call them demons, but they are demons because they limit us. They enslave us to a conditioned pattern of thinking that I am somehow different from the divine, I am small, the divine is big, and this kind of thing. So who creates that? The I and the mind creates that. The Shumba and the Nishumba demons create that. And therefore Saraswati fights them, and Saraswati puts an end to them. So the I and my principle is not easy to get rid of. What do we mean by getting rid of the I? It means that the small I slowly transforms itself into the big I. And so the caterpillar is dead. But is it really dead? No, right? Why? Because the caterpillar has become the butterfly. So the little I dies, so allowing room for the bigger I. The little candle in your room, you put it off in the mornings. Why? Because the sun has risen. So when the sunlight comes into your room, you do not need the little candle light. You do not need the little tube light in your room, because the sunlight is now beginning to flood your home. So that is how Shumba and Nishumba, the I and mind principle, we have to understand. That allow the bigger light to dawn, the little light becomes redundant, the little I becomes redundant, the little desires become redundant, because there is a greater power to fulfill much, much larger desires and goals and ambitions and visions and missions in life. So let us therefore think on these lines during the next 3 days. It is a divine journey. Navratri, once you begin to practice Navratri, there are 4 such periods in the year. And this being one of the most auspicious, and it's somehow become very popular. But then there are other 3 periods as well. We touched upon it during the year. We were during our Hanuman Yagna, we went through one. And so we will perhaps become a little more aware of these as we go into our sessions in the following year. Let's see how that goes. However, in this period, now that you are here and now in this Navratri, spend the last 3 days even more intently, with greater intensity, with greater meditation, with greater prayer. Not prayer of asking anything, but being in that presence, being in the divine presence, invoking that Devi principle, the Shakti principle, and adorning your inner altar. I spoke about the inner altar, the inner space. Please understand that this is not a concept. It's not simply an idea. It is real. The inner space, there is a beautiful space within us that we can create. I would even go to the extent of saying, as spiritual aspirants, we have to create that inner altar where we sit with our Sadguru, with our chosen deity. Name and form is completely immaterial. It's up to you, because it's your altar. You form the rules and regulations of that altar. But the predominant energy there is love, devotion, humility. And when in that, and of course discipline, because that, like I talked about, the continuity, and spend some time every day in that altar and slowly bring it to life. My dear sisters and brothers, it's so amazing when that inner altar becomes live and you maintain it alive with your own spiritual sadhana, continuous practice, or constant integrated awareness, as Baba calls it. Then in periods such as these, that inner space comes alive. The altar comes alive. It's filled with divine light. And you bask in that joy. You bask in the radiance of that Devi principle. It is so beautiful and so mesmerizing and so enchanting that you don't want to come out of that altar. That is the beauty. The greatest joy is there within us. But you and I have to build that altar. You and I have to create that altar. And more importantly, we have to maintain that inner altar. And in that altar, allow the divine to express itself freely, in the form of Sai, if you will, in the form of Devi, if you will, in the form of all gods and goddesses. Maybe one day each, the freedom of variety can be experienced in that inner space. So may the divine continue to guide us. May the divine bless us all in that inner space. And that inner space, we carry it across lifetimes, because that is established deep in the chitta. And I say mind and I point it here, but it is just for our immediate understanding. But it is formed in the depths of in the chitta, and we carry that across lifetimes. That inner space, whatever we treasure, we come back to it lifetime after lifetime. And the more beautiful and alive it is, the more wonderful our lives are, because we draw sustenance from that space. The power, the enrichment is inexplicable. May the divine guide us in helping create that inner altar. May the divine come alive in that inner altar, in your inner altar, in mine. And together we enjoy the presence of the divine. And being in that presence, experiencing the divine and allowing that divine to become ourselves is the goal of a life. And these periods such as Navratri help us get there. Thank you for watching. Stay blessed. Continue having a wonderful Navratri. Namaste.